Google just released Embeddings 2, and it's actually a big deal. This isn't just a new model like hype train like we normally see. This actually changes how we deal with RAG agents and addresses a huge problem that we've been dealing with since this technology came out. So the idea here is it gets rid of all of the pre-processing that we normally had to do with our retrieval agents, and you can just throw a bunch of different file formats at it and be able to talk to it immediately, like messy PDFs, audio, video, handwritten notes, and the agent understands that. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about what this is, what it means for us, and where you might not actually want to skip the pre-processing step. Anyway, let's just dig in. So if we want to know why Google's new model is a big deal, we kind of have to go over the baseline, right? And I'll just get you caught up in case you're not familiar. If you want AI to have context about specific things, let's say if you're a business owner, you want it to know about your business, your clients, your manuals and your SOPs and whatnot, you use a thing called RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. It's kind of like an open book test where AI is a librarian and it doesn't get answers from its training data. It runs to your filing cabinet and then can find the different folders it needs to pull from. It worked exceptionally well for text documents, right? Even in Google's documents, expanding on our previous text-only foundation, all the other formats notwithstanding, PDFs in particular were the hardest things to deal with because you would give it to your agent, it would understand some of it, but then there'd be an image or a table or some sort of handwritten marking that the agent would have no idea what to do. It's like the librarian came to the filing cabinet and half of the folders were in like the Cyrillic alphabet. It's just not, it doesn't know what to do with that, but it would do its damnedest, and table rows would get mixed up because there's some text, or I mean, it would do everything it could. That's why everybody's hyping up Embeddings 2, is because it can do all these modalities, but it does them all at the same time. And I think PDF is a great example of that, because PDF sometimes will have clean text that gave you no trouble, and then there'll be a picture, and then there'll be a handwritten note, and then there'll be a table. It kind of has all of that sort of thing in one spot. So essentially what this does is it takes those multimodal inputs, right? Takes all that different format, the text, the image, the audio, and it puts it into a language that your librarian can read. So it has no problem pulling that folder when it goes to the AI filing cabinet. So as far as use cases, I found this blog post that actually sums this up super, super well. It can take voice notes, for example, and it works a lot like your Spotify up next or suggested for you, right? Because it knows this audio is very similar to something else you were talking about. And if you were to search that, it'd be like, okay, what are my voice notes on video editing? And it would pull those back and it would get the information from your voice notes on video editing. And it can actually present those exact voice notes as sources now too, which is completely changing the game, because before you'd have to like go through some really flimsy transcription of those voice notes and then put them into a markdown format and then have the librarian sort of file that away. Now you don't have to, you can just give it a voice note and it can reference that. Same with video, same sort of thing. You can do like an SOP, like explainer video, for example, and it can watch that, know what to do, and then present information based on that sort of video. So where I see this being like a game changer and almost essential is anything where you need the AI to present like a diagram or an actual video or a voice note that you had indexed in the first place. So the first thing that came to mind for me is, let's say you're running an electrical company and you're staring at a panel that is like 80 years old and there's all sorts of weirdness. Instead of like just trying to figure it out and like making some phone calls or whatever, you could query the database that your company has on whatever it is to get the exact schematics and just get an idea of how to attack this specific problem. Or for moving companies, right? There's a grandfather clock with some specific sort of, you see where I'm going with this, right? You can, anything that's indexed in here, you can come back with a diagram for people or a video how-to if it's indexed like that. This is actually amazing for these sort of like technical applications. This is a big deal and it's brilliant for a lot of these different use cases, but there are some where I would recommend sticking with the traditional sort of clean first method. Okay, so for example, let's say you want to interact with your data, right? Like you're building a personal agent or a knowledge base that you kind of want like two-way sync with. This wouldn't really work because it just takes your raw information and puts it into a black box and processes it on its own terms. Where if you wanted to keep your documents like living, for example, in your Obsidian database, I'm turning into an Obsidian guy if you've been watching the channel for a little bit. This is cleaning it and putting it into a markdown format is actually significantly better for that use case. Anyway, this way it's always living, it's always adapting and being updated as as changes are made. You know, you can still have that librarian go and check some stuff out for you. It's just that you've got a little bit more control. At least that's the way I see it right now. Anyway, this came out yesterday, so I'm going to continue to work with this. And it's the start of something awesome because, I mean, this is the first model that's ever been able to do this. So like I said, that's why people are excited. And this is a game changer because we've never been able to do this before. So I guess the TLDR of it is, yes, this is a huge deal. If the visual or audio is the primary data, like your diagrams, like your walkthroughs, like your voice notes, that kind of thing, then this is absolutely a must for you, for your use case. But if the concept is the primary data, the traditional method is still probably superior in terms of like personal agents and knowledge bases. That's maybe a hot take that I'm going to hear about in the comments. But anyway, if you found this helpful, make sure to sub for more because this is all we do, and we'll catch you in the next one.